Hey, what's up? It's Matty at mixandmastermysong.com. Today I'm going to go over one of the new additions we've put into the studio, which is a room correction EQ. It's really just a whole nother computer. It's the Trinnov ST2 Pro. And I didn't want to buy this thing, but I had the guys from Vintage King come over and we tested it out. And within 10 minutes, I said I'd buy it. It's $4,000 plus. It's not a very cheap thing to buy, but it was super important for me. After having my room designed and built, we still had a couple EQ bumps in the low end that were still kind of hard to fix. And you know, what I needed was a much bigger room, and just we didn't have the real estate to build a bigger room because the bigger a room, the longer the bass frequencies can go, which lets them kind of equal out more. So that not being an option, I was using Sonarworks for a bit, and it did a fairly decent job, but I still wasn't quite right. I found sometimes when I switched from the Barefoots to the NS10s, the bass would change. So I knew that there was still something a little funky going on in the bass area. Now, that's not to say you can't work with the room you have and learn how that bass works. I did a pretty good job doing that, but it would still kind of drive me crazy in the back of my head that everything wasn't perfect. So that was the whole point of checking out this Trinnov, to see if it would make that big an improvement over the Sonarworks. And I was pretty floored by the difference. Sonarworks, from what I know, and don't quote me because I am not the best with all this super crazy acoustic math stuff, but Sonarworks fixes the frequency of the room. So it will fix, if there's, a boost at 50 hertz, it will EQ that down. Now, it doesn't do the best job of fixing the phase or the time alignment, which is the delay between the two speakers. The Trinnov does all of that, and it does it on another computer. So one, to me, it freed up CPU, and two, which was kind of big to me, was I could switch from different input sources, because a lot of times I'm listening to the main mix that I'm working on. I'm listening to the rough mix that the client sent to make sure I'm not getting too far away from their vision. And then I'm also sometimes listening to references from the radio or, songs that the artist wanted the song to get to. And I do all that by switching my 3 digital inputs on my Avocet. So having the Sonarworks, I could only be on one of those. And it was kind of a pain to be able to switch and not, I'd have to find crazy ways to make that all work. So that was quite a pain. The other pain was if I wanted to switch to my NS10s, I'd have to turn the Sonarworks off. And I know that's kind of like small problems, but when I'm mixing, I want to be able to move fast, hear the difference. My 10s, because they're really close and I listen pretty low, didn't get affected negatively by the room that much. But the Barefoots being wider apart, bigger, and much bassier, we're having some of the problems with the bass. So I'm going to show you what it did to fix my room with the software and kind of go over the software a little bit and what it does. And then, you can maybe get a demo of it if it's something that interests you. Like I said, it's not a cheap investment, but it has made a world of difference in my mixes, and more so the mastering, just being able to really hear everything that I'm doing and knowing that it's pretty close to accurate, almost, 95%. So check it out. This is the before and after of the amplitude of my room. So if you see here, these were the frequencies, and these, when I mentioned there's 2 bumps, I knew it and could hear that I had a bass boost around 50, 60 hertz, and then a dip around 110. And it was really kind of messing with me sometimes when I was mixing the low end. I knew about it, I worked around it, and Sonarworks helped it, but it still wasn't quite right. And then there was a little boost here, and these, and this didn't matter so much. These even out fairly well in the room. It has fixed it a bit, but this wasn't so much of a concern. It was really these 2 room issues, or 3 really, more so these 2, that were my big issue. And so this is the before of what the room was without any treatment. And if you look at this is pretty crazy. This is the after. And that's quite a big difference. So this basically makes the room frequency-wise, completely flat. And it does a dang good job of it. The other thing it does, and this was the part that really threw me for a loop that it was going to make that big a difference, was there were a few phase issues in the room, and you can see them here around 500 hertz. The low end, there was a little bit, which is weird because it's hard to fix anything around this 20 hertz area. And then there was another thing going on around 5 and 12K. And you can see it smoothed all that out too. And finally, I'll show this on a different mode, but you can kind of still see it. There's the left and right speaker is blue and green, and there was a little bit of a delay between the two. And moving that just almost like really kind of changed my image of the way I was hearing things. And that kind of blew me away on how that was done. If I can find it, the settings, here we go. So here's the position. These are where the speakers are in my room, right? And sitting close here where I am now, it moves the speakers the way I hear it. It moves the speakers in so they're actually here, perfect to my listening position. Now, the way this room was designed was for me to sit back a little further. And so these are actually pretty well if I was in a different position. But when I'm really close to right up to the keyboard, I'm a little off axis, and that fixed it right here, as you can see. Also, the elevation view. Now, the left speaker is practically perfect. It's right aligned. But it did bring it up the right speaker a little bit, and you can see where it's overlapping a bit. And you can see the final part is in the summary, and this is the page I was trying to get to, which really shows the difference. So here's the distance from where we took the measurement was a little bit off between the two, so it fixed that. The elevation, as I said, was a little different from the left to the right, so it aligns that. It physically, not physically, but from the sound, it moves the relationship of the speakers, so everything's perfect between the left and right height and how it's coming to you. There's a very small discrepancy between the levels, and so it adjusts that. As you can see here, the delay, there was a slight discrepancy with the delay. It adjusted that. The BM delay is if I was using a subwoofer, which I don't. Here's how much the delay compensation was. Now you can see it's very small, 0.17 milliseconds, but it does make a difference. So it fixed all of that, and it really kind of blew me away of what it could do. These are the settings too, and this is the flat one I have. I have another one where you can go and change the EQ a bit if you want. If you're kind of used to hearing it a certain way, you can. So I did add just a bit of more high end that I felt it had kind of shaped off a little too much. One of my other settings that I tend to use. But you can go and redo the EQ or change it to fit what you kind of like more. Say if you're producing sometimes and maybe you want more bass, you could do one setting with the bass up or something like that. You can change the same with the group delay and the phase and the impulse response, which I'm not 100% sure what all does. Lastly, you have presets. So this is the other kind of crazy part about this thing is here's my two mix possessions where I usually sit and mix. It's usually on one of these two all day. But if I have clients in the room, I can do left of mix, which is if they're sitting to the left of me, I can click that and the whole EQ settings and delays and all that will switch so that where he or she is sitting is the best representation of what the mix sounds like, which is pretty insane stuff. Also, I can click back a room, and the clients that are sitting in the back of me, back of the back wall, it will change the EQ and all that so that it sounds best to them and the most perfect representation of the mix. So all that being said, it's a pretty insane system, and I'm still getting to know it. I do want to go take some more measurements and try some different things out and see what else might come up with the room, but I didn't want it to blow me away. I wanted the guys to come down here and me to say, wow, it sounds just like Sonarworks, no big deal, save myself $4,000 to $5,000. But it was just too big of a difference. It kind of fixed the two issues with those low-end issues I was having. It fixed those, and I was like, I'm sold. this is the most important thing to me. What I hear is way more important than all the gear I got and everything else, the plugins, all that. Because if I'm not hearing things 100% correctly, then I can't know 100% that the mix is going to be perfect for the clients. So this thing's really been a game changer to me, and that word gets thrown around loosely, but it has been. So hopefully you take something away with this. If you know you're doing this professionally and it's something that, you know, there's some room issues you're having, this really might be a worthy investment to look into. So not to take anything away from Sonarworks, because I actually still recommend it to tons of my clients, and I think it's a great program for the price. But you know, I'm doing professional mastering, professional mixing here, and I like to make sure that I'm giving every client the best product they can have. So that being said, I hopefully it was helpful. Let me know what you guys think. If any of you guys are using this and you have any pointers for me, because I'm still getting used to learning this whole system, leave them in the comments below. And if you like the video, like and subscribe. And if you need your songs mixed or mastered, hit me up at Matty@mixandmastermysong.com. Thanks.